Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Val Custom. So today we're going to finish off our work in progress series of taking a Sideshow Collectibles Black Canary premium format statue and turn it into Velma from Scooby Doo. So if you've seen the past couple videos, what we did is we chopped up the statue, we sculpted all the elements, we added elements, we made a new base, and as of right now, she's all cleaned up, she's pretty much prepped up, and we're going to start painting her up. So in this video, I think we could definitely get it done in one shot. I'm going to try to explain as much as I'm going through with the colors because she's actually fairly simple. You know, we have skin tone on the legs, the arms, and the head. And then basically it's orange socks, orange sweater, semi-reddish type skirt, and shoes, and pretty much hair and glasses. So she's not really that complex. I always start with skin tone first, so we'll kind of go over that on how I do all skin tone. As you can see, she's all pieced up and everything, so it's easier to paint pieces and, you know, have removable stuff here and there. And then we'll move on to probably the skirt after the skin tone, and then probably from there we'll move on to the sweater and socks because they're kind of like the same colors. Then I'll do the shoes at the end, and then we'll do the hair too at some point as well. So there's really not that much more to go because the base is done and everything else is ready to go. So the way I work it out is I'm going to use Garage Kit's Flesh Tones as a base coat right now. I really like their flesh tones. I like their paints for this stuff because it goes on very dry. It does bond pretty well if you seal it well enough. We'll go over that later. And what this will do is I'll do a base coat now. I will go around the item, make sure there's no scratches or any other defects or anything like that, because this stuff dries fairly fast. There's some paints out there that if you do like a coat of paint on it, it's very wet or rubbery and it takes a few days to cure. So if you try to sand it down, what happens is it doesn't like really let you sand it and you start ripping up the paint. This stuff goes on there like almost like a very chalky type of paint, and it works out pretty well for me to find errors. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a base skin tone off camera. I'm going to go look around if there's any scratches. If there is, I'll come back with the camera and I'll show what I do. But usually what I do is use Tamiya putty, which is this stuff over here. If you have, like, say you have a scratch on the leg and you put the base coat paint on there and you want to fill in that scratch, you could do a little bit of the putty, let it dry for like a good 15 minutes or hit it with a blow dryer. And if you go very lightly, you could kind of like buff it out and sand it and you can patch up that area. So this stuff is pretty good with this paint. Like if I was to use Createx or some other brand, what might happen is it goes on too thick and it doesn't let me sand it, and you have to let it really cure for a while. But this stuff should work out pretty well. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and explain how it's going to happen is once we start painting her up. Also, I don't have any like formula for painting skin tones. Whenever I paint skin tones on any characters, it's more of just kind of just doing layers and layers and layers and colors till I get it to where I want it. Some people have a special formula. They do washes, they do other stuff, but that's not for me. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to get some freckles on her face as well. Maybe a little bit of freckles on the booty, you know, nothing too crazy. That I might just kind of use like a toothbrush and kind of like spritz some freckles and see how it works out. We'll see what we'll do. I don't want to go too crazy with the freckles. I don't want to make it look like it's forced. I want to try to see if I can make it look a little natural if you look up close. Because I know I've seen a lot of cosplay girls where they actually, you know, they put some really heavy dots on their cheeks and stuff to kind of do that whole cosplay freckle thing, but I don't want to go that crazy. Just a little bit there, but we'll see how it works out. So I'm going to get all set up, and when we come back, hopefully I have the camera set up. I'll try to explain as much of mixing and colors as I can throughout the video, and then once she's done, we'll get her up on the photo booth, and we'll show her next to Daphne, and hopefully the Scooby girls will be all finished up. Okay, so I went over the whole item. There was only 3 spots that I really needed to sand down. A little bit on her chin and 2 spots on the arm. Other than that, it was pretty well cleaned up and ready to go. So we're pretty much ready to start doing the skin. So right now, this is a bottle of skin tone I mixed up a while back. I kind of try to find this kind of like a base coat for some of my items. So we're going to kind of mix up a little bit more just so I have some more in this bottle. So right now, this is a P3 formula Rhine Flesh. Got a little bit left in here, so I'm going to kind of put this in here as well. We're going to put in a couple drops of transparent Bright Flesh. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit in there. We got some of the Garage Kit Flesh. So we're going to put some of that in there. Now you may say, oh, you're mixing up brands. I've been mixing up these brands for a while. They're all acrylic based. They're fine. If you start putting in other brands that got sort of like an alcohol type of mixture, like Tamiya, it might cause a problem, but I really haven't seen it too much. If you do enamels or lacquers, then yeah, you're going to run into issues with acrylics. This is a P3 Formula Flesh Wash. Put a couple drops in there as well, just to kind of give it a little bit more life. I just want to make sure I have a little bit of paint in there. So this right here is P3 Formula Midland Flesh. This has got a little bit more of a sort of a little bit of a reddish brown tint into it. Gonna put that in there as well. I mean, I'm gonna be blending my colors anyway with other brands, but I just kind of want that base color kind of back. Let's see. So we got some other paints here. Yeah, I was looking for this one. I knew I had one. So I have more of this Brine Flesh. P3 Formula paints are pretty nice. I'm kind of liking the way their colors and their paints are working. So I've been using their stuff a lot lately. So put this stuff aside, and let's put a little bit more of this Garage Kit Flesh in here. Garage Kit's paints are very watery. They're good for the airbrush. So I use them to kind of like thin down other thicker paints. You know, some people say, well, you should use water retarders and stuff, but I like using these Garage Kits because they're so watery. It'll thin down like a really thick Liquitex and stuff, so you're keeping the pigments and you're not really watering it down too much with like water and stuff. Just to be on the safe side, let's see, I have a lot of other paints here of colors that I mixed up. So I just, like I said, I kind of want to salvage some of these colors. This is a color I mixed up for something. It's got a little orange in there, which is not bad. Sometimes these paints, you know, instead of them going bad on me or anything, it's good to kind of use them as other colors. And this one's a little bit too dark for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw in some Badger Flesh. Now the Badger stuff is very, very watery, and it's got this really orangey tint, so it kind of might make it pop a little bit. So then I think we got about a half a bottle in there. So I'm going to shake this up pretty well, but I think I got the color where I want it. And what we're going to do is I'm going to do another base coat on her. Try to start getting her, get this base coat going, so when we come back we can start detailing. I'm just kind of skipping the boring stuff. So I think we're good on this bottle here. So I'm just going to do another base coat on this, and then we'll start doing some detailing. Okay, on to some shading. So whenever I shade an item, I go a little bit overboard. I don't really like, you know, try to make it perfect because I'm going to blend it all down. So I took my original color, and I have some old burnt sienna hue from Golden. I really love this color. Just shame they stopped making it. So I mix it in my cup, and basically from here we just kind of do some shading. Now it's going to be kind of difficult to get into some of these crevices now, so I'm going to have to do the best I can. I mean, ideally you would want everything split apart, but sadly when you make a one-of-a-kind like this, you can't. Well, you can, but it'll just be way, way more work. So we'll try and force some shades in some areas. For her underwear, it's going to be kind of like a silky white. We'll have to use a paintbrush for that. So you can see I'm just kind of going a little heavy. Not really worried about overspraying. I'd rather overspray in these areas I can't get to, and sort of hopefully the paint will hit it where I need it to. So just kind of get in those areas like so. Same thing for the face. Now she doesn't have like heavy makeup compared to Daphne. She's got more of like blushier cheeks and maybe some whatchamacallit, freckles. But for right now we're just kind of getting these darker areas, so this way it's easier. And as for the hands, we got to kind of think about where they're positioned, so hands like so. Alright, so now we got to clean up the paint cup. We'll go in and do some more colors and just keep going at it. Okay, for the next step is Garage Kits makes transparency pale flesh and bright flesh. So I have the two colors here. So the pale flesh is more of an orangey tint and the bright flesh is more of a red tint. So what I like to do is I like to mix both of them in the cup. So it gives me a vermilion hue. It's not orange, but it's not red. Kind of just balances the two colors a little bit. Unless you're going for, you know, you want the red in there for more of a virgin color. Or if you want the pale flesh to kind of more of an orangey. But I kind of like to mix them together. And what I like to do is kind of over those shadow areas, just hit it again. Be a little loose with it. Alright, so we got that done. Now what I like to do is take Garage Kits transparency, what is it, not semi-transparent. Which is kind of like, it's kind of like their Garage Kit flesh, but with a little bit of semi-transparency to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of this in my cup, right? Take some of this, put some in there. We're going to take some of our original color, put that in there. And then I have a mixture of a bottle of like water and alcohol. So there's about 10% of alcohol in here and the rest is just water. So this I kind of use to thin down the paint a little bit. And then from here, just kind of start toning it down a bit. what this is doing for me, it's giving me an idea where the paint's going and maybe where I have to push the airbrush, because sometimes if you spray an item, it might overspray this direction, or you might not hit it because of the skirt. So it's just giving me a little bit idea of, you know, kind of where I need to really push some colors and paints to work. It's just how I work. It's not really... So the same thing with the hands. And we go back to the face. Looks like I could really bring out her cheekbones a lot too on this sculpt. Now, because this item is not really, whatchamacallit, we don't have all this other extra skin tone, I can actually paint her with the head on if I need to really hit some areas, if I really want to. So I can have the head on there. And kind of help with seeing things a little bit more. Pretty good. Okay, so let me clean out my brush and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so is this in my cup now? I mixed up a couple different colors, some transparency pale, transparency flesh, bright flesh, a little bit of the P30 formula, and a drop of the burnt sienna hue, and we're going to put a drop of our flesh tone base, so we get sort of a brownish, tannish color. Kind of really focus on some little areas now, nothing crazy. You know, make the booty pop a little bit more. Around here, the knee area. So I just kind of wanted to work on the legs a little bit, make sure I'm getting that area. Alright, what I need to do next though is I got to tone down this leg area here. So let's go back to our basic color. because I hit those areas with the shade. So, and there's a little bit of splatter over here I got to take down. Tone this down a little bit with that knee. So I want to take down the cheeks just a little bit because I think I went a little too overboard with them for right now. So I think what we're going to try to do now is we're going to do a little bit of speckling, see if I can get some of that, whatchamacallit, freckles going. Because I think if I get the freckles going now, and then I tone it down, they won't be as bad. So we'll try that. I'm going to try on the booty first. So what I did is I put some pale flesh in an airbrush. And I'm going to just see... just a little bit of speckling there to kind of give a little bit of a... nothing too crazy. It's not bad. Kind of... got a little bit of freckling on her booty. Spot over there, wipe away. Alright, so we'll put a little bit more of the pale flesh on the brush. And now we got to try to do the face. So let's kind of get down. Pop off the head. And let's kind of go on our arm first. So you don't want to overdo it. So let's see. Alright, so it's really heavy, so what I'm going to do is kind of do a little bit heavier. Okay, so it's really heavy on her face. So what we'll do is wipe all over our shirt. Why the hell not? Let's go to our basic flesh tone base. And let's try and tone some of it. Let's hit it with a blow dryer first. So maybe we will have to go in with an paintbrush, but we'll see. Alright, so what we're going to do is take some of that original color, right? A very tiny drop of the dark. A little bit of the water. Gotta use a paintbrush to brush the... give me sort of a mid-tone. So we're starting to get a little bit of that in there. Hopefully you can see it in the light. So I'm trying to just keep it around the cheeks. Because once you put on the glasses too, you're going to kind of miss some of it. So it's kind of more on the cheeks now. So let me get my magnifying glasses, make sure we're looking good. And I don't mind that it's kind of around the nose and a little bit up. Yeah, if you up like far away, it's kind of good. When you look up close, it's looking pretty decent now. It's kind of toning it down, and I like that it's kind of a little bit up, a little bit higher, but we'll take some of it down. Alright, so now she is not really one for eye makeup, right? But I do want to give her some kind of a shade, because this is like a cosplay girl after all. It's not really pure. So we're going to give her some darker. We're going to have to tone it down a bit, but I'm trying to... Alright, so let's go back to our original color, mix in with this, some water. We might have to do a little bit of a shade in there just because, like I said, it's a cosplay girl. It's a little bit more adult looking. So this way we can kind of make it spruce up. So I gotta get a little bit closer. Let me stop the camera and I'll come back and we'll see what it looks like. So I want to see what she looks like with a little bit of eyeshadow, but nothing overboard. So I'm going to get my magnifying glasses on and kind of see where we're going with this. Because I don't want to make it too crazy, but I want to at least give her something. So I use women's makeup palette. Some people use pastels. All depends on what you're more comfortable with. Use some of the highlighted ones too. The reason why I'm doing it now is because I want to see if I need to go back in with the airbrush and sort of tone it down. It's also good to I have some other stuff that's a little bit more softer. This is it. So this might work. So I'm trying not to go heavy on her, and I don't want to really add a color, because if I do Payne's Gray, that's a really, really strong paint, bluish. As long as you seal the stuff though afterwards, you're good to go. So this stuff is a little bit more cakey. So maybe this will kind of... Who's to say that Velma can't have a little bit of makeup on, you know? These are good. I wish these were a little bit smaller. So let's try a little bit of blush too. This is kind of my blush brush here. Had it for years. And then the one container right here. I don't know, this one that I've used for years now seems to be the best one. So she seems to have, they do a little bit more blush kind of like right here on her, instead of on the other side, so we're gonna throw it on the front cheek a little bit more. This way we still see the freckles. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and paint in the eyes, just to give me a better idea what I'm doing, then we'll come right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I did the eyes, the eyelashes and stuff, so I like where it's at now. It was kind of hard to see, but once you start adding those black eyelashes on, and then, you know, the white, well, it's kind of like a grayish white, it's not pure white out of the tube, eyes, it gives me where I want it to be. So it's a little bit of a darker areas around the eye socket stuff, like women's makeup, but it's not overpowering, and it's not there. So with the eyelashes, I think it works good. Once we do the you know, the irises, and I think I'm going to do the eyebrows now, and then I think I'm going to work out the lips. I'm going to go over it one more time, make sure I didn't miss anything, and then we're going to seal it up, because I'm pretty happy with where we're at with it now. I did go over a little bit here and there on the booty and some of the back of the legs off camera, just to kind of clean up some stuff. I'm actually going to take the legs off though, the booth, and I'm going to really kind of like see if I'm really missing anything off camera, because sometimes when it's upright like this and you're not looking underneath, you might be missing some stuff. But as far as the lips go, I'm going to try to go as natural as I can, but kind of blend it and not make it like a harsh line. We'll see how I could do with that. But let me get the eyebrows in first. I'm going to look at some of the original you know, paint-ups of the head, get a better idea, and then go from there. I got to do this off camera because it's very hard to get the camera in there and show what I'm doing, and I want to make this look as good as I can. So I have it really close to my face with the magnifying glasses, and I'm going, and I just really can't show you what I'm doing, but it's pretty much straightforward. Okay, it took me a while, but I think I got the face and lips where I want it. I was really getting in close. I had to get up, walk away for a bit, try to get these lips kind of where I wanted. At first it was getting too pink, then I mixed up a little bit of a red that I shouldn't have, and it became too much of a fiery pink. So I had to kind of go down with the original color, and I try to keep it as natural as I can, but still give her a little bit of a lipstick, so it kind of feels more natural than really popping out at you than bright red. So it's a lot of the skin tone of the base color with a little bit of a red, some transparency colors and washes, and then I had to darken up the inside as much as I could and kind of work it. There was a little bit of a defect over here, so I had to kind of go in there with the X-Acto blade and kind of clean it up a bit and then rework it. But other than that, I think it works pretty good. It's got a nice sexy look to her. It's a little bit more of adult looking, you know, version, superhero look. but it's not overpowering either, so it's not really going to jump out on you once we get all the other elements on her. So I think, you know, once we have the dark mahogany reddish hair, the orange sweatshirt and all that, it won't be as potent as it is right now. So I think it should work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over the legs and everything one more time. I might start doing some pastel working with the hands between the fingers. We'll kind of go over that, and then after that I think we can seal her up and kind of walk away for the day. Okay, so I went over one more time. I'm happy with where everything is. I had to actually touch up some spots underneath the skirt area, but I got that done. I went over the fingers. We're looking pretty good. I don't think I really need to get in between the fingers, but I could do that afterwards because I kind of really want to seal it now. Sadly, acrylic paints, depending on what brand you're using, are not very durable. They can scratch, so you really need to seal them. I like to seal my skin tones really well. I've done it in a lot of my other videos only because, you know, if you go in and do any kind of trim work around these areas here and you mess up, or this paint actually absorbs like water a lot, even though it's kind of like dried up. But so if you do like a little bit of a trim around here, what will happen is sometimes that paint absorbs that water and it starts bleeding upwards. But if you seal it, it really doesn't do it that much. So the way I like to seal my skin tones to make them really, really durable is I use Duplicolor Car Paint. This is the clear top coat. You can see right there. Basically, it goes on like a really candy shell. It's very, very shiny. And it will make your paint really, really glossy if you don't want that. But what I've been doing recently, and it's been working out pretty well, is I used to do this first, and then I would let it kind of like dry up a bit, and then it would get kind of to the point where it's almost cured up, and then I would hit it with matte varnish, and then with the varnish would go over and dull it down. But if you handle the item too much, sometimes that varnish starts to come off and you get that candy gloss shell again. And that's what I don't want to do. So what I've been doing lately, and it's actually been working out because I was worried about it, is what I do is I spray down the item with the Duplicolor. I wait about, I don't know, a couple seconds, and then I go over with the matte varnish and I dull it down. So what happens is the matte varnish sort of kind of bonds into that clear coat before it's really curing, and it makes it a little bit more durable from rubbing off later. I'm not saying like spray it on and make it bleed and go crazy, but if you mist it around the item enough, you'll dull it down, and then once it cures up, it's pretty dull. So that works out pretty well. Other than that, it's just also easier for masking and handling, because say I have to handle the leg when I'm painting here, even though I'll use some kind of like foam to hold it. Sometimes, you know, if you're not careful without sealing this, you might run your fingernail over and scratch it. It's just the way it is, you know. Like I tell people all the time, paints over in China are not the same regulations that they are here in America when it's like liquid form. So over there, they can do a lot of stuff that we can't do in America. But once it's cured and sent to America, it's fine. But spraying it and getting those type of paints in America are not allowed. Like, they say, oh, they're not lead-based paints, but even if they're not lead-based paints, there's something else in them that America paints won't allow. So we're only limited to what we can do. But I like acrylics more. I have more control with acrylics and so on and so forth. Enamels and lacquers, other people love those and they do those. Some people love oils. It all depends on what works for you. So as long as you get what you want and you seal it up enough to the point where it's nice and durable, it works out well. And you know, these are statues. They're not really going to be handled and played with. Mostly it's for packing and shipping. And really, if anything, you should always have a glass case where you don't have to dust it all the time, because dust will destroy your statues over time if it gets very, very dusty, and then you go to try to clean them out. It's not very friendly. So a word of advice, if you have a statue collection, try to get yourself some kind of a glass case, a wooden box with a glass door, something to make sure that dust doesn't get in there, and this way you don't have to worry about dusting everything all the time. And the other thing too is if you dust a lot of your statues all the time because you're not in glass cases, you run the risk of breaking swords, fingers, hair pieces, knocking stuff over. So if you're going to be buying statues, invest in a nice good display case where you can put them in and you don't have to really worry about them, and go from there. So with that being said, let's kind of get set up, seal this up, and then I can walk away for the day without smelling the fumes in the studio. Even though I got the booth, sometimes the fumes are a little bit potent with this stuff. so this way I don't have to smell it for the rest of the day. So at least the skin is pretty much ready to go, and then I can start plugging away on the outfits. So time to paint up her underwear. So the goal is I want it to be like a silky white. So over here I have Wicked Colors white, which is really a great white. It's my favorite white of all the whites I've used of other brands. We have some Createx Pearlized white. I like the Createx Pearlized white auto colors. Works out pretty well. So this is going to kind of give it that silky look. I have a little bit of gray paint here. It's kind of like a bluish gray. That'll help me kind of create some brush strokes. The idea is I don't want to sit there and mask this off and airbrush it and make it look perfect. I want to kind of create like a little bit of a satin look, kind of work with the little bunches and everything. And then over here I have satin varnish, which I'll do varnish on top of it at the end to make it look a little silky. So I think that'll work out pretty well. Now, after I do that, I'm going to do the skirt. Now, looking at the pictures, her skirt is kind of more of an orangey red. So I'm thinking about doing something like more of a like mahogany shading with a mixture of orange red. So I'll have to kind of figure that out because the idea is her skirt is sort of going to be close to the shoes a little bit. But the shoes, I want to make them look like shiny. Like they're kind of like more of a plastic looking type of a shoe compared to like, the socks and shirt. So I have to kind of plan that out when I mix up these colors. But once I do the underwear, and then I go in and I do underneath the skirt, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to paint all underneath the skirt. I'm just going to try to get underneath the skirt as much as I can with the reddish mahogany color I mix. And then this way, when I do put silly putty around all this area, I can still hit it with the airbrush and kind of blend it out a little bit more. It's a little bit tricky. Like I said, the idea if this was mass produced, these legs, like the butt area and stuff, would connect into here. Whether it connects into where the underwear was, or all that underwear connects into the top of the body. But since it's a one-off type of thing, I got to get in there and just kind of work at it. So I'm going to do it all off camera because trying to do it on camera, you'll never see what I'm doing because I got to be very careful. So like I said, I'm doing the underwear first, and then I have these long paint brushes where I can actually get in there and, get around in those deeper areas without sitting there with a smaller airbrush and then accidentally hit stuff. So I got to take my time. This is probably the hardest part of the whole statue right now. Like once I get underneath here and this is all done, it's just a matter of masking this off. We're going to do the skirt. Then I'm going to do the orange sweater and the socks at the same time. And then after that, I do the shoes. And then whenever I get a chance, I'll finish off the hair, the glasses, the eyes, and pretty much that's all we have to really focus on. So I'm going to be sitting here for probably like an hour or two doing all this. We'll come back when I'm ready to show you guys how it looks. And then what we'll do is we'll mask it off and we'll get the skirt done. And then from there, all I have to worry about is the rest of it. So I was in the zone. I did the underwear on her, and I did a lot of my orange and reddish trim on the back. I didn't show it off because I just got it all done and I just started masking and just kind of was running with it. But as of right now, I just kind of want to get this done before any of this silly putty maybe comes off. So I have some P3 Formula Red here. We have some light red Model Air. And then I got some of my mahogany. So I'm going to be using this mixture of colors to kind of do this. I'm going to do the base red first. Maybe mist on some of this light red, which is kind of like an orangey color. I might throw some other oranges in there. I got to go. But I want to make sure that I don't go too orange to fight with the sweater and the socks. I want to make sure it's red. I'm looking at a lot of cosplay artwork. I'm looking at her original artwork. And I'm going to find like a middle ground on those colors. And then the shoes... like I said, I'm looking at one artwork where the shoes are sort of red, so I might not follow exactly the same color here, but I might have those shoes kind of like reddish too, so we'll go from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this color, try to like detail it up, make it look pop a little bit areas here and there, and we'll see how it comes out. So I did my basic color, and then I went over that with some of this light red. This light red is very, very tinty. It doesn't like go on super thick. So it actually oranged it up a lot, and I really didn't want to go too orange with it, even though the sweater is going to be more of a lighter orange. So I do have this Badger crimson, which is I use this for a lot of my other colors. It's kind of more of a deeper red. So I'm just kind of hitting the areas that I hit with the mahogany. So we're going to give it a little bit more variation to it. So it's going to have a little bit more life to it than just pure orange and then shaded like mahogany, and that's it. So there's definitely more oranges, reds, mahogany, shadows in here, really just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. Just wanted to make sure this wasn't too orange. And I'm definitely going to seal it up with my Duplicolor, seal, like I did with the skin. And then from there, I'm going to flatten it down. I don't want any of her claws to be too shiny. She seems to have very, very, flatter type colors, character. Always make sure you mixing whatever colors I'm using. Make sure I have those colors throughout the item. I gotta dump some of this out and go back to the original red, because the original red goes on a little bit thicker. So I gotta So there's just 2 more spots. I gotta get some of the mahogany mixed in with this. I just want to kind of get a little bit darker areas up here. Looking pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit it with the blow dryer. I'm pretty happy with where that's at, just to be on like the safe side, just as an experiment. Even though this is not the orange I'll be using, but I'm kind of using it, so you kind of see a little bit of a variation. So it's like, okay, I know where we're going. So this isn't too light, and this will definitely go from there. Looking at my computer screen, the colors I'm kind of following. Yeah. So this is kind of the orange is where I'm going with this. So I think looking at her, maybe punch up a little bit more shadows. No, I don't really think. Maybe a little bit. Let's see. Let's kind of hit this a little bit more of the mahogany a bit. It's the one picture I'm following. It's got a little bit more of a, it's kind of like a lighter red on one side, and then the shadow's got this little bit more of a mahogany red. So I'm just kind of want to go that route with it, and I think that looks good. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. So, like I said, next step is seal it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and seal that up. Typical way I normally seal, just to make sure it's a little bit durable, only because it's kind of difficult. If I was to do the top part first and then the skirt, I'd have to mask all this off, and then I have to worry about scratching any of this handling it. But doing it with the skirt here, I have to make sure I don't do any scratches with here, but I think it'll be easier to mask this off and do the top than to try to do it the other way. So I could do both at the same time. Just kind of brainstorming on how I process and how I do these things. So I'm going to do real quick is off camera. I'm just going to get my light. I'm going to flash my light in here, make sure I didn't miss anything, because sometimes with all these little curves, if I didn't have it at the right angle, I might have missed a spot. So I'm going to check that real quick, and then we're going to seal. I'm going to blow dry it real quick, seal it up, make sure everything is nice and ready to go, and then we can let this dry up, and then we can finish the rest of her up another day. So it is time to do all the orange on her. Now, one of the things that I just realized and I completely forgot, and I should have actually tried to order it again, but back when the pandemic hit and then afterwards, I was ordering a lot of paints, but the problem was I couldn't find a lot of paints. And one of the paints that I was trying to find was P3 formula yellows and oranges, and also some Citadels. But for some odd reason, those were some of the colors that dried up at the time. And not really thinking, I thought I had some paints over my arsenal here that goes on nice and thick that would cover like the red and these colors with no problem, except I don't. So we're going to actually mix up my own colors now, which should be fine. It's just a matter of kind of mixing them up and everything. So I have an old bottle here of bright yellow. Just kind of, it's just an easier bottle to mix in. So we're going to use some of this golden as a thinner. This stuff is kind of watery and they don't make these opaque colors anymore. But we're going to try to create our own orange that kind of goes on nice and thick. And Citadel paints are great. There you go. This is a nice bottle that I was using. So we'll throw some yellow in there so that's nice and thick. I'm just hoping to get a nice base color going first. And then after that I can use some of this golden bright orange kind of as a top coat, you know. If I need to add more colors or shades, I don't know, we're gonna kind of just go through it. Like this right here, this light red, it's very, very watery, this Model Air. For some odd reason it doesn't go on thick at all. So we're gonna throw some of this bright, not bright, but this red from Citadel in here. Let's see if we start getting a nice base coat orange. We might have to throw some more in here. It's always good to mix more than what you need, just in case. It can't hurt to have an extra bottle of orange sitting around. Put the cap over here. Yeah, so you can't. The outside looks yellow still, but the inside's got a nice little orange going. So that might be a good base coat. It might be a little bit darker than what I need, but we'll kind of see how it goes on. So let's do an experiment real quick, just to make sure we're going in the right direction. Definitely. So definitely getting a nice orange on there. And then a good experiment too would be up on the sweater, making sure it goes over the red. Yep. Okay. So hopefully I mixed up enough paint. We're going to go over her right now. I'm just going to go on and try to get as much of this orange on there as possible. And then from there we'll see what next steps to do. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is some dry brushing with the original color. Just kind of try to bring out some of the wrinkles and highlight areas, and just kind of, so this way it's kind of hard to do it with the airbrush because you kind of start taking out some of this colors. So I'm just going to go over and kind of just keep doing this. Just kind of taking that original color lightly. Just kind of bring this stuff out a little bit. Try to bring out all that little detail I got in there with the yeah, and just kind of keep doing that. So I'm going to go over that and we'll see how it looks once I'm done. Alright, so I'm really happy with where it's at right now. I went over it. I don't think I missed anything. I'm going to check one more time, but I'm going to give it Tester's lacquer dull coat just to kind of really seal it up and give it a nice good coating. And then after that, I'm going to really dull it down with some matte varnish from Vallejo. I really want it to be like a really flat, you know, sweater type look on her. I don't want it to be shiny at all. So that's why I'm not going to hit it with the car paint, because with the car paint you still might get a little bit of a shininess going through just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to really dull this down as best as I can. So I'm going to do this off camera because this stuff stinks. I got to get the, you know, get the booth going and all that, and then I got to dull it down. So that's pretty much where we're at with that. I'll pull off the masking, we'll come back, we'll take a look at her, and then after that it's pretty much the shoes, touch-ups, and then the head. Now, there was one thing, though, when I was doing some masking, there must have been a little bit of something that was stuck there, whether it was like some dust or maybe a silly putty. I'm not really sure. Something was stuck over, like, up around here. So when I was putting the silly putty on, and I kind of lifted it up and put it back down and ripped it off. So I just got to do a little touch-up where that's easy. I'll just put some silly putty over on the orange and then hit it with the reds again and touch it up. But sometimes that happens. It must have been just something I missed or whatever it was. But let me get this sealed up and go from there. And one last thing too, I forgot to say. I did put silly putty over the keyholes for the arms and the head, because if you leave those open and you're spraying and you're coating and you're doing stuff, all paint goes in there and it becomes a little bit harder to put the pieces in and out. And then it also could scrape everything to the bottom, so you won't get metal touching magnet. So that's always an important thing. So time to do up her glasses. So they are clear, you know, plexiglass, and you really can't just like throw paint onto it because it's a smooth surface and it might not stick. So I did a nice good coat of plastic adhesion promoter from Duplicolor, and then I have my Spaztec gloss black. I think this will be a good color to do over the eyeglasses. Now, sadly, I have to have it at one spot, so I have it right here holding it. So this is going to show, but what I could do is with a paintbrush is go over it or whatever, and then we'll be able just to kind of like glue it into the head at the end. So just kind of make sure this is shaken up. And the only thing I hate about these Spaztec bottles is they are very top heavy, so they could just kind of like fall over. Kind of wish they would redesign the bottles a little bit so they don't like, sometimes I tip these over, so I get a little bit paranoid with them. So we just need a little bit of gloss black, put it over here so I don't spill it. So, pick down the pressure a little bit. Kick on the booth. Now hopefully they don't kind of pop out of the thing. Now the reason why I'm using Spaztec on them is because Spaztec is kind of a lacquer enamel type thing, and it's a little bit more durable. I have a funny feeling that if I try to use acrylics on here with handling it and trying to get it into the head after it's painted, I might have some issues. But I just want to do a nice little coat. I'm definitely going to let this dry for the night. I'm not going to mess with this, touch it, or anything. I really want to make sure this cures up. But looking at it so far, everything's looking good. Just want to make sure I get every little nick and cranny. And there you go. That's pretty much the eyeglasses. So we'll just let that sit up. And now I'm going to kind of start working on some other parts. So time to work on her shoes. So the way this is going to work out is I'm going to do a base coat of the P3 Formula Red, which can't really read what red that is right now. And then after that's sort of on there, I'm going to do a nice little light coat of this light red from Model Air. This will give it a little bit of a tiny bit of a brighter orange tint, but nothing too crazy. I don't want to make the shoes orange, and I don't want to make it exactly like the skirt. Kind of want to make it just a little bit different. And then after that's done and dried, I'm going to go on to the bottom of the soles and I'm going to paint them brown, because I want those to be separated from that stuff. So, and then at the very end, what I'll do is I'll do some paint around there of the metal hoop, which I think I'll probably end up trying to think on how I might want to do that. it might be like an off metal. I don't want to make it like a bright silver looking. I think I might just kind of make an off metal. She's a very, like, you know, old school brown, reddish, orangey type of a setup character. So I want to keep that going. I don't want everything all of a sudden this bright piece sticking out over there, you know. So I had to just get all the masking off because all this saran wrap was kind of getting in the way. So I said screw it, because this base is, you know, I didn't want all the base to get too destroyed. Up top it could always be tweaked and redone, but so this is kind of where I'm at right now. So I just need to get the basic parts around there. What I might do is I still might pull out some of the mahogany, because I'll probably be doing the mahogany brown, maybe with a little bit of other browns mixed in. But at least I could paint the bottom of the sole like a darker color too and get that out of the way. So we got the shoes pretty much done, at least the red part. I'm going to paint up the other part. So what I want to do is I want to make the shoes shiny. So I have the SpazTech Ultra Shine Clear Coat 90109. I really like this stuff, and it's just going to give it a protective coat. Plus it's going to make it a little bit shiny. I want the shoes to look like PVC shiny type of shoes for her. But then when I paint the brown part, we're going to leave that flat, so kind of break it up a little bit, which would be cool. But I want to let the paint dry a bit. I want to move on to something else. But at least I can let this dry a little bit. I'll do a nice coat. I'll pull off the masking. I'm going to pull off the masking up top first, up in the upper body, just because I don't like the masking sitting there too long. As long as I have the masking over here when I do this part, it should work out pretty well. I'll do the... You're just going to use a paintbrush, and I'll do the bottom, you know, the heels and the soles another time off camera. Just get it done. The same thing over here. I think the last thing I really have to work on is pretty much the hair, which I'm going to do next. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. So we'll let this set up. I'll seal it later, and then we could get this hair pretty much finished up. Time to work on the hair. So looking at the, you know, the old cartoon, the brown walnut type of color on her hair, I don't really think it's going to work too well with the, you know, the paint up at the figure. You know, it's kind of like more a little bit of a realistic type of a statue. So I want to try to find a little bit of a middle ground between it. But I've been looking at a lot of cosplay girls, and I've been looking at a lot of the art you find in like DeviantArt and stuff. And there's a couple of drawings I like of the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a color and do a really dark brownish mahogany sort of base coat on it. And then from there, I'm going to start dry brushing and bringing it up and try to create some kind of a detail on it. And then at the very end, what I'm going to try to do is like around the highlighted areas, or maybe around here, try to bring out that a little bit and a little bit around there. So as far as right now, I'm going to take some mahogany, I'm going to take some raw umber, mix up a base coat, get a nice base coat going on there, let that dry up a bit, and then we'll start working out some colors. I want to make it a little bit more of a, you know, like I always tell people, when I try to do hair, I try to think of those, you know, hair color commercials you see on TV where the hair is just completely shiny and perfect. You know, it's always like shiny, it's got all the very highlights, and it's, you know, it's all camera play. But I want to try to follow that as much as possible. And I might do a bit of a hint of a pearl in there too when I start doing the dry brushing, but we'll see once we get to that. So let me get my base coat on there first, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're going to start working on this hair highlights and stuff. So looking at the one picture that I got there, it's got kind of like an orangey red oxide type color. So I actually have this Liquitex Basics. It's like red oxide. So I think that's a good color to go with. So for right now, we're going to start a little bit darker. But we'll start to bring it out as we go, and hopefully we can get a... See, you do it with an airbrush, but since I got all this detail in here, going with a paintbrush and doing it might bring it out a little bit more. So this right here is a little bit of the darker brown. This is a little bit of that red oxide. So, just going to start, show our camera, and just kind of start pulling out this, giving it like this. Yeah, that's kind of the color It's kind of the one of the colors that's in the hair. And you don't need your paintbrush like slapping crazy with paint, just dry brushing. That's all it really is. So it's kind of like light, you know, on your brush, and you're just going, and you're just letting the brush kind of, you don't not digging it in, you're just kind of going back and forth. Old Karate Kid type thing, you know, just back and forth with it, trying to grab all those highlighted areas. Yeah, I think that red oxide color is going to be like the go-to color for this. So as you can kind of see how it's starting to pop out. I just got to be careful it doesn't fall off this handle that I have. And this is tube paint, so tube paint kind of goes a little bit better than airbrush paint because airbrush paint is very watery. So you might get it like start bleeding in areas if your paintbrush is too much. I want to make sure I get underneath of it. Now, the only problem is like inside areas, that's a little bit trickier, but it works well when you have the hair like that, you know, when you really have that hair, deep cuts into it, the way I sculpted it, you can get away with this. Sometimes if you have hair that doesn't have these deep cuts, the paintbrush gets really caked in between the sculpted areas, and you kind of lose that detail, so you might have to get in there and actually paintbrush strokes, which sucks, but sometimes it's called for depending on the hair sculpt. I would say a lot of earlier Bowen stuff has stuff like that where it's kind of like, you know, it's sculpted hair but it's not deep cuts, so when you try to do the dry brushing it kind of fills in the areas, if you kind of get what I'm going at. But if anyone's collected Bowen stuff, yeah, so now we're getting that color I'm going for. Now the only thing is, like, you know, if you look on the screen like 2D artwork, you know, they force colors and it works, but when you're working on a 3D item, it's kind of hard to pull that out, you know. But we're gonna keep doing this a little bit more. I really like the variation between the two so far. This red oxide is exactly what I was looking for the hair. So if you guys invest in some tube paints as well, get sets, hit them up at you know, art stores when they're on sale, online. They are good to use on stuff like this, so it doesn't always have to be airbrush paints. Okay, I'll hit this with a blow dryer, we'll come back and we'll work on the next step. Okay, so next step. Now, one of the other things too is if you do clean out your brush or you use water, be very careful, dry it out, because if you have your brushes very damp, you'll run into that error with the paint sort of bleeding into your areas. So, this red oxide is a really nice color. I'm liking where it's going with it. So we're going to mix some of this, I think it's raw sienna or burnt umber. No, was this burnt umber? No, raw sienna. So this is raw sienna right here. So we're going to mix this in with this color to lighten this up a bit, to give it like this yellowish lighter orange. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of hit it with the highlighted areas a little bit first. A little bit over here. especially in the bangs. Yeah, I like that. I like where that's going with that hair. Yeah, we're starting to bring out some more color. And I don't want to go straight, what is it, raw umber? Just want to keep slowly building these highlights up. That's a good thing. It doesn't have to be every single spot. It can be just key areas. And if for some odd reason this sort of did bleed a little bit there, you could go in with your darker color later and start taking it down. So you don't always rule out going back in with a paintbrush to sort of tweak some stuff. So still want to kind of start bringing it up a little bit more. So here is a yellow oxide, so not pure yellow. It's a little bit of yellow oxide. So we're just trying to create different shades without going crazy. So we're going to mix some of this in with this color here. And let's start seeing how yeah, like it's just sort of pulling all this color around. As you can see. Yeah. We want to make sure her hair is so dark though, you know, she's got that dark with these little highlights. So, at this point, we want to kind of create that shiny look. So we're going to have some, this is metallic gold from Auto Air Colors. For some odd reason, this color's hard to find easily. So we're gonna kind of mix this into the brush a little bit, nothing too crazy, and sort of hit going around. You know how like you see that thing around, you know, hair that kind of goes around that area. So that's kind of what I'm going for mostly. And then we're gonna go over here. And that kind of helps a little bit with the highlights. Alright, now we're going to go back to the red oxide with the brown. There might be a little pearl mixed into it, but that's fine. Come around this area in the center. A little bit up top. Definitely at the bottom of the bangs. I want to make these bottom of the bangs not just, you know, dark color. I want to make sure it's got a little life to it. Alright, go back to a little bit of the pearl. Mix in with the red oxide, a little bit of this. Kind of create a little bit of an orangey look. Now if it is a little shiny, I'll hit it with some dull coat. Pull it down. Don't be afraid to kind of run your finger around it too if you have to. Alright, so we're going to go into the red oxide again. I see that's a little bit too much there. So let's grab the paintbrush with some water. Sort of pull this out a little bit. Alright, so I want to get inside the hair a little bit too, you know. I don't want to just sit here and have it not in there. So we're going to go with a little bit of this paintbrush and some of this oxide. And what we'll do is we'll try to sometimes you just can't get in those areas, so you gotta sort of force it if you can. This spot over here is a little too much, so take that down. This spot right here could use a little bit. This spot over here could use a little bit of it. This kind of use a little bit there. Sometimes that pearl stuff's a little bit too strong, so you gotta tone it down. Alright, so we're gonna mix this red oxide directly into the gold pearl, give it like a red oxide sort of. Now the only problem with the pearl is it's very watery. So don't be afraid to get underneath the hair too, because that's, so we're getting that nice sort of shiny hair type of a look. It's a little bit brownish, kind of fits her, still following that color on the screen. So let's try, go a little bit of the yellow with the gold. And let's see if we can get some real highlights going. Yeah, there we go. Starting to like that. Creating that circle highlight around the top of the hair. Okay, so this spot over here is a little bit messy, so we're going to have to try to tone that back down. Alright, so I'm going to hit this with some Tesser's Dull Coat, walk away for a bit, come back and see what we're looking at. Alright, we're going to see if we got a little fun with this. This is some Createx Pearlized Gold. I'm actually not a fan of this stuff. It doesn't really mix too well. I went through like 2 bottles. It's just, I'm not really liking it, but sometimes it does work when you really thin it down with some water. So what I want to do is I want to hit this up here a little bit. So it's kind of hard to see, but when you kind of hit it in that circle, it's also hitting some of the darker area too, and you get that little bit of a halo glow around there. And so I'm going to do it sort of at the bottom here as well. So you might not see it at the bottom unless you kind of turn it more, you know. But I'm not really, it's a little bit of the bottom I want to kind of play with a little bit. So we're going to take out some of this color. I'm actually going to grab some mahogany. There's one little spot I'm not really liking though, what I did with the brush, but we're going to grab some Model Air mahogany. This is kind of like a brownish red. And I kind of want to fix a little bit of an area messed up here. I want to give that a little bit more of a reddish, and then what I want to do is kind of give a little bit more of a reddish mahogany on the bottom part of the hair there, and a little bit up top. And any little places I think I kind of messed up with the paintbrush. Just to kind of get some brownish shreds in there. Kind of just help pop it a little bit. So we'll kind of hit it in some other areas. So it's not all just pure, you know, we got a little bit of the brownish red mahoganies in there. We got some of the highlights, you know, and I think I'm liking where it's at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this with some dull coat. Actually, you know what, I'm going to let it dry for a little bit, hit it with a blow dryer. I'm going to gloss coat it a little bit with the Duplicolor car paint, only because this is an item you have to grab with your hand, put it in and out of the body. And then I'm going to dull coat it down, just to give it a little bit more of security with the paint. I'm always get worried with stuff that you have to handle to pop in and out of a statue. Sometimes those things get messed up. So it's just kind of my own little, you know, issue with stuff. So I just want to make sure things are a little bit more durable and secured. But other than that, I'm really liking the color. So I'm going to get all that set up. Nice and done. I'm going to get the shoes finished up. And then I'm going to try to get the glasses situated as well. We're going to put eye decals on here after this is all set up too. We'll get the eye decals on, we'll get the glasses on, and then after that, we are pretty much finishing up. Okay, we're at the finish line here, so I'm going to go ahead and pretty much do these last couple details, and we are pretty much done. So, as you can see, I put her eyes in there, and I cleaned up the face a little bit more, so all I have to do is add the glasses. There was a little bit of a weird little speck of like paint that must have got caked up on the front of the glasses, so I had to sand that back down, and I just painted it again. So I want to give it like maybe a few hours before I glue it onto her face, but we're pretty much ready to go with that. Now, I did do my research. I went online and I looked up that Velma has green eyes, but when she has the glasses on, the eye pupils are black, you know. So this is a cosplay girl. It's not more of an animated thing, so I went with the green eye. So I used my eye decals. I went back in there with a little bit of a paintbrush, and I kind of colored up the decals a little bit, sealed up her lips a little bit. So the head is pretty much ready to go. I'm just going over everything one more time, making sure I don't miss anything. A little spot over here, kind of need to clean up. And then I'm going to do the bottom of her shoes now, and that'll be done for the final part of the video. So we have some mahogany, and then we have some Pans Acers. This is, what is this, leather belt. So I'm going to kind of mix these two together, and I'm going to do the bottom of the shoes to give it that brown look and go from there. And I did go ahead and put the kind of like a rusted metal on the clips on her shoes. Just need to clean up a little bit. I'm going to go over one more time, but I think everything is ready to go. Her fingernails are kind of like a very, very light pink. Sort of did her fingernails as well. Just want to make sure that she doesn't have really colored fingernails. So they are sort of colored there, but you can't really see it as much. But yeah, they are just sort of like a very light pink, almost natural look. So I didn't really want them to pop out. So other than that, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish everything up. I'm going to go over one more time, make sure I didn't mess anything up, make sure everything is nice and clean. And then we're going to put her up on the photo booth. We'll look at her final and everything. We'll also put her next to the Black Canary that I have in my collection. And we'll see from the beginning to end. And we'll close out the video. So let me get all this done and we'll finish it out. Alright, so here we go. This is Velma all finished up. So I just want to show her next to Black Canary now, just so you guys can see from beginning to end what we started with and what we finished up with. What I'll do is after we do the Lazy Susan 360 of her, we'll put her back next to her, and we'll do a 360 of them side by side if I can get them on the base. And then what I'll do is I'll also sneak Daphne in there too as well, because I'm going to have a separate video for Daphne, so you can see how she turned out for the live stream items. And just so you guys can get a better idea of the two girls side by side. But so far, this is probably one of my favorite customs. I don't even know if I want to let her go yet, but you still got to pay the mortgage and stuff, so we'll see how things work out. But let me get her on the Lazy Susan. We'll do the 360. We'll look over everything, and then we'll close out the video. So here she is, all set up. We'll go over everything. We'll kind of, you know, just explain a lot more in case anyone really didn't watch the video series or wants to go back. But I think this whole pose of Black Canary going shush worked out really great. I'm glad I really tweaked the arm to hold up the magnifying glass, so this way it really fits her a lot more. The whole scenery of being in like a graveyard, throwing back to the creators of the Scooby Doo whole IP and everything. I think it's just a really, really great idea, and I really like, you know, going through more of taking anime, manga, cartoon characters and transforming them into these superhero type stuff. So it's a little bit different, you know. I mean, you know, there seems to be a lot of Velma stuff popping out over there in the world now between artwork, and there's a lot more sculptors doing stuff. So this is kind of like my take of taking a superhero item and converting it into a Scooby Doo character. So we'll get a little bit closer. We'll kind of recap everything. We'll get you better details on some of this stuff. So the face worked out beautifully. I'm really happy with it. It worked out. She doesn't really have a lot of makeup, but there is something there, so it's not completely like, okay, she just really bland and has no makeup. So you can see I make the cheeks a little bit pop a little bit more. There is some detail in there of some freckles. Her lips are glossy, and they are kind of more of a natural lipstick than a pure, like, bright red lipstick. I didn't want to make them just bland lips like she has no makeup whatsoever, because, you know, this is kind of more of a superhero look. She's kind of more adult looking, so why not have a little bit more fun with it. Archer Fine Transfer Detail eyes, but what I did with the eyes is kind of detailed them up a little bit. Now, some of the people asked me in the beginning, like, how come there's no, like, plastic around the glasses and stuff, like she's actually got glasses on. The reason why I did that is for a couple of things. One, it's kind of hard to have something super clear and work without getting scratches or anything like that. And the other thing too is I look at a lot of the anime PVC statues out there, or kits. I guess what a lot of them do is they can't really get those glasses to work perfect. So what they do is they have a sheet of metal and they etch out the metal like flat like we do with that, and they just kind of bend the metal over the eyes. And you get to see the eyes, but you have an understanding that there's glasses there. And I like that better. So it worked out pretty good. Now, if you do the stats of Velma on all the Wikipedias and all the other things, she has green eyes, but when she puts on the glasses, her eyes turn black, at least in the cartoon. So because, you know, this is a little bit more realistic type of look, I went with the green eyes, and I think it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the hair, too. Now, because the hair is kind of dark in these areas, it might be hard to see in camera, but when I turn her in certain areas, in certain ways, those glossy glasses pick up the light, so they actually kind of glow when you look at the deep area in the hair. So that's kind of a nice touch that worked out pretty well. Because if I flatten the glasses, that might get lost within the hair areas that are dark, and it worked out pretty good. So in certain areas, the glass frames kind of like grab the light because they're glossy. Now, the hair, I'm learning more and more about hair. I like the way this hair came out. I'm definitely practicing more bob haircuts and shorter hair and kind of detailing them up a little bit more. So it's kind of like, you know, it just takes practice. Shorter hair for me is harder compared to longer hair. Longer hair, you can do a lot of waves, curls, and just have fun with it. Shorter hair, you have to kind of keep it in that sort of element, and it's kind of hard to do. But I think this worked out pretty well. So I'm really, really happy with that. Now, as far as her sweater goes, I'm really kind of having a lot more fun pushing the envelope with Aves, because, you know, when you work with Aves, you only have that 3-hour window before it really gets clunky on you, and you can't really do much with it. So I'm getting to the point now where I'm almost kind of like speed sculpting, in a sense, where I'm able to do the whole entire outfit, like the sweater, add a lot of texture, add the details, and just keep playing with it and running with it as best as I can. So if you go back to the series, I did the skirt first, and then I did the cuffs, and then I did the sweater on top of all that. So adding the texture on that and all the other wrinkles and stuff worked out pretty well, and I really, really liked the way it came out. Now, as far as their skirt goes, that was a lot of fun. I like the way the skirt came out really well because it's a nice flow. I'm learning more and more about how to work the eaves and kind of do a little bit more details with the skirts and stuff like that. Other than that, it's just a matter of keep playing with it, keep adding details. Sometimes you got to break it and tweak it and just run with it. But it is fairly sturdy. I mean, of course, yes, you can break it just like any other statue out there if you put enough force on it. But using Magic Sculpt and eaves, this stuff is pretty durable. So it worked out pretty well. Now, as far as her booty goes, because we beefed up her legs a little bit more, because I know she's supposed to be short and stocky, so we'll give you a nice booty shot for you guys. I like the idea of using the Black Canary outfit, which is underneath everything, but you can see the Black Canary outfit over there for the underwear, basically. So that's kind of like a little bit of an extra nice touch. So it's sort of that element is still there, but it's kind of on the backside of her and all that. Now, as far as her socks and shoes go, this was a lot of fun as well. I really like how the socks came out. I like the idea that they're really thick socks like the sweater, so it makes it a little bit more puffy. And the shoes definitely really worked out pretty well. I really like the way the shoes came out. It's kind of opens my eyes a little bit more if I want to try more stuff with shoes. Let's go and zoom a little bit. If we get some camera noise, that's just because the camera kind of wigging out on me a lot lately. But so the shoes worked out really well. I added all the details with the bottom of the shoes brown. I added the metal parts for the clips. We have the hand that we made a 3D print from Meta John over in Canada. So that worked out pretty well. And then for anyone who maybe hasn't watched the series, here is the removable tombstone. So this is in memory of the guy's last names that created the Scooby Doo series, Awa. He's did a lot of the designs. I think these also the writers and stuff. So I really don't know all that, but we just decided to do in memory of them. But if you're not a fan of this side of the tombstone, you can flip it over and you got the creeper, which is kind of one of the first monster type guys. So you could kind of swap it out if you want the creeper on this side, or if you want to do the basic craters on that side. So that's kind of a nice touch. And then we did all the grass on the elements too of the base, and she kind of connects with the Daphne that I created as well. So that is pretty much Velma Dinkley. I think it's Dinkley, right? I always kind of say it wrong. Customized from the Black Canary Sideshow premium format. I got a lot more ideas that I'm going to do in 2022. I'm going to try some more anime, manga characters or cartoon characters. But the problem is, you always have to find the statue that's going to work for the character. You can't just get like an action Wonder Woman type statue and say, oh, I'm going to make an action version of Velma Dinkley. You know, it doesn't quite work that way. So there's a lot of brainstorming. There's a lot of like, you know, if I see a statue out there and I'm like, oh man, that would make the perfect character, I have to try to hunt it down. And that's the other problem too. You can't just go out there and drop, you know, some of these statues sometimes hit like the 1,000 mark or even more too for just something that's damaged or has been in the market for a while. So there's a lot to try to do. There's a lot going on, but we'll see what we could come up with in 2022. I got a lot of ideas. I also like to thank the Patreons too. Patrons are really supporting me a lot lately, and I'm hoping to find more statues that they can vote on for certain characters. So be sure to come into my live streams. We'll see what we could do in 2022 next year. But that being said, hopefully you guys like the series. Hopefully you like the character. I do have another character that's going to be in another series for YouTube. I'm planning on getting that ready in 2022 at the end of 2021, which is in another month or so. I'm going to probably get that going and get that started. That should be a really cool comic character that we're going to work on. But we'll see how things work out. So with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And let's get the two gals set up next to each other so you guys can see that. And we'll finish out the video. Okay, so here is the two girls side by side. I really like this display. I think it looks awesome. It's really cool to see these girls kind of like in a superhero cosplay look. It's a really cool display setup. I think they both worked out really well. I had a lot of fun with them. So let's kind of do a little bit of a 360. If you guys have you know, came into the live streams and saw how we made Daphne, I appreciate it. If anyone comes across this video and wants to see how it's done, I got a lot of the archived live streams on my channel, so you can see how she was pretty much designed and made each week on Fridays. But they work out pretty well side by side. So like I said, they are split bases, but they sort of are uniform in a way, so they can be turned. You can pretty much turn Velma around, so she's kind of looking in that direction, and hers this way, so you can see the booty. See if I could kind of do that. Hopefully we don't have any damages, but let's see. They pretty much are on the base pretty well. So you can kind of turn her on this base in a way. You know, I designed it as best as I could without really going too crazy, but you know, if you wanted to have the girls side by side like this, you know, which is kind of cool. I mean, if I was like, if these were like my holy grails and I was going to have them in my collection, I would have done it where, you know, they're both on one single base and they're pretty much there for good. But, you know, just the way this works out is, like I said, I'm debating it if I want to part with them. But if I do, it'll probably be something where like each one is a specific price, but if you buy both, it's a little bit cheaper. You know, I wish I could keep everything I do, but, you know, I still have a mortgage to pay, and this is kind of what I do. So we'll probably get this listed sooner or later. We'll see how things go, but I just wanted to get the video done. I want to thank everybody for watching the series. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for everybody that pops in on the live streams on Fridays, all the Patrons who help vote and support me. So with that being said, we're going to close out this video. Hopefully, when I get a chance, I'll be starting maybe at the end of December of 2021 into 2022, the next video series of the character I'm going to be working on. I have it. Got to pop it out. Got to do all my planning. And we're going to start those series as we go. But with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll be back with some more videos.